All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for listening and tuning in to the Tasty Talks Tech, Wrestling, and Life podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Evelynn Mimi Jae. And today is going to be a fun wrestling focused episode. I'm excited for, and I hope that you enjoy listening too. As you know, I am a little bit new to pro wrestling. I did get my first taste of it, I guess you could say. Attitude Era, The Rock. I think he was a lot of our entry points. He was at least a lot of other females. Yeah. So him, and then it kind of just grew from there a little bit. And then I also like when I was a kid, I remember hearing people saying jabroni, people doing the suck it move, all those things. So, I kind of got into it a little bit, started watching a little bit here and there. Then I stopped. Then I came back in the Divas era because I love that show, Total Divas, and then I left again, and then came back with Rhea Ripley. Happy Rhea-tober again. We're still going strong with dedicating October to Rhea Ripley. So now to my guest. So again, as someone who is new to the world of pro wrestling, myself and others, and maybe yourselves, pay attention, pay the most attention to the talent, the wrestlers. However, I appreciate just the all of the art, especially after watching like things like WWE Unreal, where you kind of get like the backstage, like behind the curtain type of thing. I love a good receipt and I love some tea. So everything encompassing, everything that brings this art and this thing together. Uh, we can't forget like your referees, you can't forget your announcers and commentators. They're also a part of the art. And they are artists themselves, specifically announcing and commentary, the storytelling, knowing the stats, the voice and energy to get people hype about the matches, and holding consistent conversations with other fellow commentators, balancing play by plays and storylines with entertainment. I mean, that's the true talent to me. And they bring the whole thing together. Oh. And for this episode is really exciting because I've interviewed fellow pro wrestling content creators, and will continue to do so. Stay tuned for the next episode, by the way. However, today I am interviewing and again am very excited and privileged to chat with a talented, smoothly dressed, enthusiastic, suave sounding, and thirst quenching announcer and commentator on the East Coast. If you need voice talent, and you are thirsty, when you open the refrigerator, are you gonna reach for OJ or are you gonna reach for that purple stuff? That purple stuff in the back. Maybe you want both. If you do, then my guest is perfect for you. Welcome to the Tasty Talks Tech, Wrestling, and Life podcast, OJ Purple Stuff.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you for having me. That's probably the most remarkable introduction I've ever received
Yes.
in any place. So I really appreciate that,
Yes.
and it's an honor to be here on Tasty Talks podcast. So I'm glad to be here to help answer some questions you might have about pro wrestling and to share some of my stories.
Thank you. Taking a sip of my iced coffee.
Just a side note, if you do mix OJ and purple stuff, it will come out probably brown, so don't do it. Or you
It
could do it.
doesn't look it's not very appealing looking. It's not.
Yeah, I can explain that name if you want. I'm sure you have an idea, as most of your listeners might, growing up in the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the Sunny D commercial. My ring name is Omar Jamal. It's really just a reverse of my given name. So I basically wanted to have a name in the ring. And I tried to go by like just my standard government name, and it sounded official. This is what you put on my checks. So I kind of just tried to think of what a name I could go by, because wrestlers have, sort of ring names, and they have their shoot names backstage. Like I know them by their real names, but I don't refer to them by their real names. I just kind of just say, what their ring name is. But I basically wanted to have a name that sort of stuck out, and I figured, by going by Omar Jamal, I could just, sort of bring in the OJ. And so when I introduce myself, I'll be like, I'm your ring announcer and MC for the evening, Omar Jamal, or you can call me OJ. And a lot of people pick up on that OJ and they start either chanting OJ or booing or whatever they want to do. I've been called Wayne Brady. I've been called all kinds of stuff in the ring.
You do
Basically,
kind of you do kind of
yeah. And if that's like the first impression, if I'm working a new promotion or something, if they haven't seen me before, if it's a new crowd, they'll call me all kinds of stuff. And but once the show's done, they know that I'm OJ, and I might get some chants or some compliments afterward, but they do remember who was your ring announcer that day. So yeah, I wanted to have something clever. So OJ Purple stuff. That's my Twitter handle. I believe it's also on Instagram and wherever else you can find me. OJ Purple stuff. I know with online these days, sometimes you gotta use a underscore. I won't tell you where the underscore is, but I'm sure there's an underscore.
well, yeah, like, I was in my like, when you were talking, mentioning OJ, and, like, sometimes you'll get, like, certain reactions from the crowd. I just have Cedric the Entertainer, "OJ did it."
Oh, I've heard that. Jay did it, and the don't get out of there, OJ. Like I get a lot of that. Where's your white Ford Bronco? All that stuff. So, you get
Yeah.
heckled just like everyone else. As soon as you get on the other side of that guardrail and you're like talent, you get noticed. Even the camera people, if you trip or something, they'll get all over you. Referees, especially, you get the ref you
Oh,
suck and
yeah.
all that stuff.
The ref for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
WWE, that's kind of a big thing too, the refs and, like, sometimes the wrestlers will, like, beef with the refs and yeah, I see, I see that. Yeah, well, I appreciate that you appreciate my introduction of you. There's actually I don't know, you maybe think of, shout out to, Dallas Cash of, the Humble Roses podcast. He gives epic introductions. So, he's part of the Culture Clash Network family with myself and some other content creators. So, if you're ever on one of his shows, either the Humble Roses podcast or Marks with Mikes,
Oh yeah.
he may give you we're gonna rival. Now
Oh,
he's gonna
yeah.
hear that and be like, "Okay, now I have to really bring it with the intro."
I've
But
seen I've seen that a few shows too, so I know he's gonna have a word to say about me, showing up here and not on their show yet.
this is an entry point.
Oh, yeah, I don't mind
It could
developing.
be
Yeah,
if you're down, it could be.
yeah.
That's cool that you've seen the shows, that's really cool. So, as far as, like, OJ, where did the purple stuff just, like, on social media then, that part?
Yeah, it's really, it's the Sunny D commercials, so I always pick the purple stuff, like, OJ purple stuff. That's where the name comes from. I do tend to wear purple. One thing I do, or I have started doing, not so much because of, I guess, because of the name, I have a pair of Lucky socks. They're purple socks. I wear them to every show. Like, if it's cold, I'll wear them underneath, like, some dressy socks. But yeah,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't match my suit, I'll wear it because who's looking at my socks? But I've had show days where I'm like scrambling around looking even in the dirty clothes, and my wife's like going, I'm just giving her the business, like, where are my socks? Where are my socks? And she's like, your purple socks, they're, upstairs, or I haven't seen them or whatever. So it's like if I don't have them, I keep thinking, well, this show's gonna not be well, probably gonna slip or something. And so
No.
it's a superstition I have, and also keep I wonder if it's here. Yeah. So I have a Crown Royal bag, purple bag. So what I do is it's fuzzing out, but I keep my bow ties in there. So when I show up to shows, I usually have more than one outfit, which so like dark pants or a tuxedo suit, whatever. And then I have multiple bow ties. So if I decide I'm wear a yellow bow tie or a black bow tie, I just keep them all in there, and then I can just switch and alternate, at intermission. Um, that's another thing I'm getting known for is I always have like a wardrobe change. And it started with me being over prepared. I showed up to my first show in like just a regular blue business suit, like Sunday church suit. And it was a good show, but it was also like, I just kind of felt like, I could have done. I could have done more to make more of an impression, so I started getting, like, really flashy jackets, and I always showed up with, like, more than one because I kept thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna bring these dress pants, I'm gonna bring all this stuff, and something rips, I'm just done." So I have
Right.
backups of everything, even if I go to a show and I'm, like, just in the crowd or, in the audience, I always have, like, a suit in the car. I mean, I haven't had that happen. I think the most that's happened is I've showed up to a show, I wasn't working, but I wanted to I knew the photographers there, and they're like, they take promo pics backstage, so I just went to the car and got my suit on, my ring suit, and, like, took some photos, some quick promos. And
Nice.
that's just what I use for, like, just promotional images, etcetera. A lot of wrestlers
Mhm.
do that, like, they'll pack boots or they have their gear. You have your gear, because you never know. A lot of times they just need people to work security or do a run-in, help bring I've put rings together. So
Mhm.
that's one thing about ring announcing is once you're in the wrestling business, you're in, and so I've helped out with almost every aspect of it. I mean, not like every single thing, but I
Mhm.
feel like I've been, happy to sort of help, move a show along or, to pick up any job I can while I'm there.
So, of like kind of like your things, like your preparation, like the lucky socks and everything like that. So how, I mean, what's all a part of you preparing for a gig? Like you preparing for work? What does that look like?
So it usually starts, I would say, a few weeks in advance. With me, it's more so like, is it a promotion that I've worked before? So I know all the talent that's going to be on the card? Do I know the match lineups? And usually those are announced ahead of time, like they'll release the poster or something, or,
Right,
or you can tell from the storylines from the previous show.
right.
Say, say someone just hired me, like, for a show and about a month in advance, and they're like, we want you to work this show. I'm doing all the research I can. Um, who are the wrestlers on the lineup? What are their names? Um, and it's kind of weird this way. I have a big Excel or Google sheet spreadsheet, and I
Mhm.
basically just have every wrestler I work with on there. And if I don't have you on there, I'm basically finding your information and putting it on there. Helps me organize. I used to write stuff down in a notebook, but then you're flipping through pages looking for things. But things like,
Yeah.
your name, your nickname, where you build from, what's your weight, what's your height, if we're using height and weight, what championships do you have? Small stats like that. If you're doing commentary, that's even more preparation because not only are you calling them down to the ring, but you're also sort of telling the story of their match, or you're talking about
Mhm.
some moves they have or their personality. But for the most part, ring announcing is just some basics, like, what's your name? And a lot of times with that research, everyone's on social media now, so I could easily go to a wrestler's profile or go to their YouTube channel if they've got YouTube videos up and just, look at some recent matches. Helps me get to know them better too. A
Right.
lot of wrestlers that I've met on the show day, like for the first time, I have said, wow, I can't believe you've looked at like a lot of my stuff. I didn't, think anyone I was like, yeah, I'm working this show with you. I knew you were on the card. I got to make sure I get to know you before. And I say, I've got this for you. Is this what we're going with when, I introduce you? And a lot of times they'll say,
Mhm.
oh, that's great. That's perfect. Or that's kind of outdated. I don't go by that name anymore. Try this name, so it's been helpful that way. Yeah. Research, I'd say number one. Number two is practice. One thing about me is I have a voice, but just being able to put together words and talk is,
Mhm.
I grew up a shy kid. I really was quiet. So even though I have this voice and I've been talkative for the last, you know, I guess 30 years, that's still the back half of my life in terms of, uh, you know, so being able to rehearse, go over, what the entrance is going to be, what I'm going to say, if there's certain words I'm going to accentuate or punctuate, what I'm going to do if there's a change, a last minute change, just preparing mentally for that kind of thing. And then,
Mhm.
not just that, but working in filler in between matches. Well, what announcements do I have to make? And these are questions I have for the promoter. Do you want me to make any announcements? Are there sponsors you want me to feature? Is there a contest? Are there tournaments? And then just
Right.
having in your mind, when to call certain things, if someone's going to be counted out or if there's a time limit, all this preparation has to be in place. I've had shows where I've showed up and all this was just told to me like seconds before I went out there, or in
Wow.
between matches, or they weren't told to me at all. Like I think the worst, one of the worst shows I ever had. It was a there was a steel cage match, and someone got pinned, and I was like, "Here's your winner." It was like multi woman steel cage match. Someone
Mhm.
got pinned, and I was like, "Here's your winner." And the lady in the match yelled at me, says, "This is an elimination match." I was like, "Never mind, the match will continue as scheduled." I can laugh about it now, but I felt like just the
Yeah.
biggest moron. Like, but and I wanted to go backstage and be like, "Why didn't anyone tell me this?" And she'd yell at some
Yeah.
people. But I was like, "No, I was basically 2 months into the business, and I'm just gonna work with it." And people were understanding. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on stuff that's been, posted or streamed online, but for the most part, I work crowds that are there, and a lot of them are just like me. That's how I got started in pro wrestling. In the business was I was a front row guy. I was front row. I was yelling, screaming, cheering, and I think I talked to a promoter after one show, and I was asked, "Hey, you have quite a voice. Have you ever done ring announcing before?" I said, "No, I've done podcasting. You know, I want to do voice work." But nope, never done that before. And they said, "Well, send us a rehearsal, tape. Just send us, a quick rehearsal. Read off some wrestler intros, put on a suit, send it to us, and let's review and see." And after that, it was kind of history. That was about, gosh, 5 years ago. I'm including pandemic, although I didn't really do too much during the pandemic. But no, that was my entree into the business. And after the pre-show meeting was when I was told, "Welcome to the wrestling business," because the pre-show meeting was like it was a sit-down dinner with some wrestlers and some talent, promoters and everything, referees,
Mhm.
and they literally just talk through, "Here's what we're gonna do on the show tomorrow. Here is the match lineup. Here's here's the finish," you know, and there's always a pre-show meeting of some kind. I'm taking you backstage a little bit, but also just, these are things that people know, like, and I'd say a lot of that is for safety.
Yeah.
The biggest thing about
For
pro
sure.
wrestling, yeah, it's combative, it's sometimes barbaric, it's fun, it's entertaining, but the main thing is everyone shows up, gets paid, goes home safe and sound, able
Right.
to do it again. So
For
that's
sure.
when people go, "Oh, it's fake or it's a work." I'm like, well, you want it to be that way. You don't want it to be a shoot fighting and real, steel cages and real, when you see what happens when people try to go too far. And that's one thing that I have a lot of respect for the business. I've watched it since I was a little kid,
Mhm.
damn near 50 years ago. I would say that, that's something that you want to, sort of enjoy and appreciate. And working with these guys, the young men and women, day in and day out, sometimes, or week in, week out, you you go see what they go through and get an appreciation for what sacrifices they have to put in, what preparation they have to put in. All I have to do is
That
show up
part.
with a suit and make them look good. And that's what I
Yeah.
try to.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you do a very good job at that because I did some research on you. I went on your link tree, went on your links, watched some things, saw your resume. Yeah, I did my homework too on you,
Sure.
and I've seen you've worked with Assault Wrestling Alliance, Eastern Western Alliance, Line v Fights, Fight Club Pro Wrestling, and Fight Pro Wrestling consistently, like throughout like for some, consistently since like what, 2020 or something? 2021?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say those are my big 5, really 4. I'll start with Easter Wrestling Alliance. The EWA, I go there. I'm mostly a fan there. I do work commentary. I have ring announcer there. I just have a lot of friends there. So when I show up to shows, it's like, for me, it's a special occasion, but it's also like I want to go and support them. So it's not as often as I'd like because they're pretty far, and a lot of times their shows overlap with some other stuff I have, but I try to give them, some, try to contribute, give them some love. Salt Wrestling Alliance is the one that's closest to my house. It's literally down the street from here, in
Wow,
Waldorf, Maryland. Uh,
nice.
Yeah, so I get to go do that. That promotion I applied to, or I basically just emailed them, like sent them a quick, and I think someone from EWA, Zion Hart is in the wrestler's name. I worked with him at EWA, and he told me, he was a big part of AWA, Assault Wrestling Alliance, and that I should give him a look. So I just shot him an email, with my resume, all these other things, just very official, and met, talked to the promoter, talked to some people, and they said, "Can you?" That's the one place where I thought I was just getting being a ring announcer, and
Mhm,
they showed me like the commentary desk and everything and the headsets, and
mhm.
I was like, "Well, who's your main play-by-play?" And they said, "Well, you are." I said, "Wait a minute." So I told them, my rate's going up, but also I said, I fine, I'll do it. Which I've done a few shows like that, and I've come back. You come backstage or you go after the show, and I I told them, this is great, but we need a team out here. So get me some people. Get a either a regular play-by-play guy or just somebody for me to bounce off of. Because
Mhm.
one man shows, people will tell if you're listening on YouTube, if it's a one man show. But it's fun and it's very family friendly. There are some hardcore matches. It's funny to say that this is family friendly entertainment because a lot of times these are things I'm like, well, if I had children, I'd be worried.
And then also, I mean, just my knowledge of just, like, watching WWE, I mean, sometimes even, like, the storytelling and, like, what the promos are walking that fine, they're tap dancing on that PG-13.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's 2 elements of it. One is, like, is it gonna be offensive? And the second, obviously, is, are kids going to emulate it? And, I mean, it's entertainment, and that and that's the thing where the offensive part, I don't think anyone goes too far, I mean, you get the occasional middle finger or the suck it, whatever, but, the whole worrying about the kids. Hell, I watched wrestling since I was a kid, and a lot of us have done that, but we don't go doing stuff like that. I've never taken anyone, put them in a body bag, and tried to light on fire. But if I see that happening in the ring, I know that that's part of the show.
Right.
So that's kind of where you got to land with your assessment of that. I don't mind it at all. AWA is also where another part of being in the wrestling business is you hear people talking about being worked and stuff like that, or
Mhm.
what's real, what's real, what's not real, or whatever. And I'll tell this story. It was a women's match, and the ending of the match, the champion took the challenger and like did a move on her and like draped her throat with a ring bell, and so she was gasping like, and referees checking on her, and I thought the referee put up an X, which usually means it's a real injury. I ran backstage and I like went to the promoter. I was like, she's really hurt out there. Someone's got to we need a doctor or something. And there was this old veteran. He was like on the card and everything. And he pulled me in close and he's like, you're getting work, kid. I'm like 45 years old. This guy's calling me kid. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Never mind. And I ran back outside. I literally ran backstage like I was like trying to, like call 911 type thing. But I have worked some shows where people did get legitimately injured, and
Right.
it's tough because
Yeah,
again, these are your friends, these are people that your coworkers. You want to see everyone succeed and do well. So
for sure.
let's see, Flying V Fights. That was one where that's one where it's managed by Eel O'Neill and Common MK. To It's a theater company, so it's basically it's wrestling in a theater. They literally wrestle, and you go in like you're going to see a play, but there's a
Oh,
ring right
that's
in front.
cool.
So it's a
I
stage,
mean,
but there's a ring.
that is basically what it is. It's
Oh yeah,
theater,
yeah. So
just with
they,
violence and baby
yeah.
swearing
Oh yeah. oh,
a
um,
little.
Yeah, a little bit of, innuendo, things like that. They put on a
Yeah,
great show. I would say that. Probably one of my favorites because it's very thematic and, character driven, and it's one of the few wrestling companies that has a full, like, production staff. So, like, you've got a sound person and a lights person, a stage manager. And that's one thing about wrestling is the behind the curtain, you need to have somebody that basically runs traffic,
right.
that gets people in the position to get out next, or says, "All right, get out there." and a lot of shows, like smaller shows I work, um, don't. So I'm
Is
either the
that
one doing it or, I'm asking someone, "Hey, make run back there and make sure they're ready for the next match," like that kind of thing. Yeah, so
is
it's a
that so in the bigger like, for, like, the smaller ones, would that be called, like, gorilla position? Is that
yeah, Gorilla's
okay, yeah.
position is just out it's the curtain right backstage. There
Right.
depending on how big the place is, I think the whole it could include the locker room. I've but it's basically right outside the curtain is the gorilla
Okay.
position.
That makes sense, the positioning that's where when he said that, it tipped me off. I was like, "Oh, position, gorilla position. Okay. Wow,
Mhm.
this is, like, all, like, coming together, like, okay, cool."
And,
Which
that's named after Gorilla Monsoon. He used to stand there all the time. Gorilla Monsoon, old wrestler, Hall of Famer. That was the position
oh,
he was standing. So he would like he was like commentary mostly after wrestling. He's a broadcaster, but he would also manage the show or, be an agent for the show. So he would stand backstage behind the curtain and, yell out to people like, you're up next or go out there and do this. Basically last minute instructions
mhm,
because of a lot of times the wrestlers know what they're going to do. They either know each other well, so they know what they're going to do in the ring. They know what spots they're going to do, or they know how things are going. But if the show's running long or running short, that's the main person in charge that's going to say, "Hey, look, you guys have all night, or make it quick." Or
right.
something, if they got to call an audible or something. So you see a lot of backstage stuff there.
Yeah. Which one so when you had your first when you said because I was gonna actually ask how you land gigs, but your first gig, like or first tryout, like, with that person who the promoter who asked you, "Hey, like, have you ever done this before? Like, have you ever done a ring announcer or commentating?" Which promotion was that? Are you still working with them?
No, they're no longer in business. That was Primetime Pro Wrestling. They were working out of DC, so they
Okay.
had multiple shows in DC. I think I did my first show. Yeah, it was in DC, but DC and Maryland, and most of my shows are in DC and Maryland region, except
Mhm.
for Fight with Two T's, a pro wrestling that is in New Jersey. I have to drive up
Mm.
to Jersey for that one. That's more like tapings. They post them on YouTube, their shows, but
Mhm.
at one time, we were doing 3 shows at a time, like, and they would basically just dispense them, like, "Here's the show, round 1, round 2, round 3." I think now they just do 1 at a time now, but it's almost quarterly, I just do that one. But, yeah,
Okay.
prime time in DC, I could tell you the name of the show 'cause, it's etched in my brain now. It is the International Grand Prix Tournament of Tournaments Championship Invitational, or the IGP TTCI.
Okay.
I was so nervous about doing that show and making sure I got that name right. I, like, studied it back
Yeah.
and front, and, the people in the front my front row gang, and these were people that I was front row at the shows, previous shows, and they were like, "Oh my you're gonna be the ring announcer today?" So it's a lot more surprised to see me, but some were happy. It was, like, kinda like a graduation.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, yeah, because they recognized you from actually
Yeah.
attending the shows.
They're like, "What are you doing?" They would see me come out in the suit, and and they're like, "Hey, you looking g wait, why are you on that side of the rail?" And
Yeah. That's really cool.
I think every match was it every match? No, no. It was the second half was in a steel cage, second half of the show. So, my first main event was in a steel cage.
Oh, wow. Was
First
that
show
the
I
one you didn't know that was that the women's one that you didn't
no.
know? Oh,
Oh,
okay,
no,
that
no.
was a different one.
That was a different one.
Different one.
I've had done shows where every match was in a steel cage, so you kinda get practice getting in the ring and going through the cage and everything, but this one, yeah, my front row crew had the letters IGP, TTCI. They all had, like, big letters, and they just put it out in the front row, so
Yeah.
anytime I would kinda slip, I would just look over there. They
That's
would remind
nice.
me, like, "What's the show?" But that was an interesting show. Yeah, I'm trying to think, who I worked with on that show. I know O'Shea Edwards, who is my favorite wrestler, I think, of all the independent wrestlers I work with.
Mhm.
He was on the main event in that steel cage match. Bro Keller was on that show. Lady Frost, just a ton of names, um, local names.
Nice.
And working, sort of, working ring announcing or commentary, you work with a lot of people that sort of at different points in their career. Some are on the way up, some are on the way down. So I've met a lot of, sort of legends, people that I've seen on TV. I've
I
also met
bet.
quite a few people that became legends.
Mhm.
Trisha Dora, I don't know if you familiar with her. She's in AEW now. She was like the longest reigning in the inaugural and longest reigning Pan African World Diaspora Wrestling Champion. She held that belt for almost like a little over 2 years, in fact.
Wow.
So I worked with her on that show. That was and I also called a few of her title defenses, including the match where she lost the title.
Wow. So you're willing to so when you look for gigs, or you like you're pretty local, but the furthest you went out was New Jersey. Would you
Yeah,
go to I know one wrestling promotion that comes to mind that I've been meaning to check out is Ashe Wrestling
that's
in
it.
North Carol I believe they're in North Carolina?
Yes. I wanna
Yeah.
make that trip. I mean, I would love to ring announce for them. They do have a very capable ring announcer, Nadia Hunter, who,
Mhm.
I enjoy her work and appreciate her as a colleague. So I'd just like to go to North Carolina and see a show, and support. I have met, Darius Lockhart. I saw him backstage at the Fight Club show. This was, I think, just before Ashe started, and he asked me about my voice and everything, and, he's like, "I like your voice." I was like, "I'd love to come down
Nice.
there." They were still, putting it together, so I'm
Yeah.
happy to see what they do down there. I'm glad to see, the work they're doing. I appreciate them. But yeah, and that's another thing about being in the business is, I mean, yes, wrestlers are competitive. I don't think ring announcers and referees are. I mean, yeah, we all are trying to get similar gigs, but I try to be very supportive of my colleagues. And when was getting started, a lot of them were supportive of me. I would
Right.
always hit up, someone I knew was in the ring announcer, like Larry Legend or Zane Pashley, and just say, ask them some questions like how much you get paid or what do you do to prepare for shows, things like that, and gotten some
Mhm.
great advice. And if someone's like a newer announcer or just someone that's getting started, I'd be happy to help them, with some
For
advice as well.
sure. Yeah. And, who would you say, like, speaking about, like, kinda like mentorship and looking, and supporting and looking to your colleagues, who do you think who if anyone, who do you think inspires your ring announcement or commentary style?
So, you gotta pay attention to the big names that are on TV, so Alicia Taylor, before her, Samantha Irvin, have been fantastic, you
Love
know
Samantha. I miss her.
Oh, yeah, I do too, and, she just announced something about a non-compete, how she's got another year left on it, which is
Wow.
yeah, it's kinda disheartening, but, at least she's enjoying doing music and everything and staying busy.
Mhm. Yes.
So, and then, Justin Roberts in AEW. So, yeah, obviously the ones that make it on TV, some other that I consider colleagues over the years. They work at like GCW, different promotions. Rich Palladino, he works in the Northeast, New England. He
So,
definitely wears
have you
tuxes. He definitely
he
wears a
wears
lot of
tuxes?
tuxes. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but he's also very classic, in terms of his presentation, his style, great voice.
Yeah.
So he's someone I would consider sort of a mentor. I don't really like bug people too often. It's mostly like support or just say, "Hey, you look good up there," or good work. Derek Lewis, he works at the Monster Factory and he's in like the Jersey,
Mhm.
Philadelphia area. Worked alongside him a few times. So sort of I guess ring announced on a show he was on. And it's just really you sort of get to see them, particularly when I'm doing the research. Like, if I'm researching a wrestler, if they've worked on another show with that announcer, I'm like, that's a pretty good announcer. So, kind
Yeah.
of studying them a little bit, taking some things, or just kind of keeping an eye on them too.
Have you I just actually started following Veda, I think it's
Vita Scott,
Veda Scott? Yeah. Have you ever crossed paths with her?
I have met her husband, also. Speedball Mike Bailey, is wrestling for AEW now. Veda is fantastic, on
Yeah.
commentary. So I've seen her a number of places. In fact, I think I seen a show where she wrestled, back when she was still active. Yeah, in fact, I had a nice conversation with her, like, at
Oh,
a
she was a
merch
wrestler?
table.
I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah. I think she was, like, kind of on her way out of sort of active wrestling at the time. It was like one of her
Uh-huh.
last matches. But yeah, yeah, because I think she was telling me about like travel and going in Europe and everything. I remember it now, but it was just so many years ago. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like I said, I really appreciate a lot of people. There's too many to name right now. Some of them I can't remember, but
yeah.
we get to all know each other. I realized something about my social media. Like if I look at like who I follow, it's
Mhm.
almost all wrestlers now because every time some new wrestler comes up, I'm like, I gotta follow you and keep up with you. Even if you're
Yeah.
in Saskatchewan or somewhere where I'm not gonna be ever or may not be, I just try to get to know who's out there. And some of them follow me back. Some of them have told me, "Hey, I know who you are." I've worked shows where, I met wrestlers and they're like, "Yeah, I know who you are. I've seen your stuff online." I'm, "You have?" It's not like I
Yeah.
try to hide it, but it's also like I do leave an impression. I do have people that know who I am. So,
That's
you try to be
awesome.
humble about it.
Yeah. Did you ever consider I now since that I learned about Veda Scott, how she used to be a wrestler, had you ever considered being a pro wrestler yourself?
Absolutely not. I mean, maybe when I was a kid, you used to have that fantasy of being a masked wrestler, but I would just be like, making his way to the ring from Brooklyn, New York. He's a scrawny, 120 pounds soaking wet. This is the Sullivan sockhead or something. And then just, it would not work. I was always a skinny kid growing up. And I remember just in high school going out for, you know, I would say going out for football because I don't think they had tryouts, but asking the coach about football, I was like, "Hey, do you need help, any help on the football team?" I was just some scrawny freshman. He's like, "Kid, the guys on my team would break you in half. Go run track." Literally said that, and that's what I did was just run track and cross country. I've got
You
and
run track.
at
I
this
was
point,
too. I was a
oh yeah,
discus thrower. I was a discus thrower.
okay. A field event there, so you got some power. Yeah, so I basically just did distance running, cross country, but that ended like, a year into college and just kind of passing athleticism since then. So, been doing a lot of watching from the sidelines. One thing about wrestling is being around all these fit people in the locker room and everything and seeing how they, their preparation, they stretching and their diets, like a lot of them don't touch like bad food that's supposed to be bad for you. So I get
Yeah.
inspired after every show. Like, okay, I'm gonna just up on the protein. I'm gonna, get some veggies going here, so try not to do too much. But at my age, and I get asked this all the time because I have a build that's similar to a lot of them now. Um, I'm not doing it. At my age, I'll get again broken, but in a different way. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
run
When
the
you get
ropes. I've done things like run the ropes and things like that just to, kind of, but that's not for me. You know, uh, if someone needs me to take a super kick or get hit over the head or something, then I'll talk about training for it. But that's yeah, I'm not going to be doing any tuxedo matches anytime soon.
right.
They want me to. Like a lot of times, they're like, "You can punch him in the mouth, OJ," and I'm like, "No, this guy's
Right? Because
trained."
that means he has to hit you back. You're like, "No.
Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah,
no."
a lot of guys threaten me or try to take the mic from me, and I just give them all that, but for the most part, I sell that these are the professionals, and I'm just, a worker that, can get hurt, so it's funny, I watch tape of stuff, and I'm like, I'm cowering under guys that are, like, shorter than me, and I'm just like they're like, "Oh."
Like, kinda like, was it Byron in WWE?
Byron
How,
Saxton, yeah,
yeah, how Rhea, like, used to always scare him.
yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, whether it could be someone, that's, small or the ladies, but there's a few that like to pick on, the ring announcer or pick on the referees or whatever. So, we respect the business and, I just have a broader appreciation for it. I grew up on like the Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog, and the old, sort of pro wrestling. My favorite wrestler growing up was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat because of all the like
Okay.
martial arts and Bruce Lee references, but just the different styles and aspects of it. And so seeing different characters, nowadays and seeing how wrestling is now, I appreciate the evolution that what's come to this point. I was on sort of semi on off during the Divas era and the women's revolution. Honestly, the ladies do sort of a would say a much better job, but they have basically very superior product in terms of
It
output.
Clock it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind saying that, you know, that's a lot of times those are the matches we sort of all huddle around the monitor for, but the guys do well too. I'll tell you something else someone told me backstage, this was at a Flying V show.
Mhm.
Pro wrestlers nowadays, you know, because you always think of wrestlers as, like, tough people and they're yeah.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Pro wrestling and pro wrestlers are theater kids that found the gym."
I like that. I love that.
Yeah. And
I
that's really
love
what it is.
that.
It's the showmanship and the theatrical they all are, like, almost and you could tell because when you talk to them just, backstage or offline, it's like they're talking about stuff like Pokemon or Lady Gaga or I mean, you hear, like, some of the other stuff in the locker room, like, "God, this guy's, you know, disgusting," but then there's, like, you guys are really, like, going nuts over, like, you know, Taylor Swift's new album or something. Or just small things, and I take part in it, but also, like, I'm also the old guy backstage, so I get a lot of, "Hello, sir," and, "It's mister," because again, someone actually found out how old I was, and was like, "My dad's, like, younger than you." And I'm like, "Get on my face," and so he started
The
calling me pops, and
shade.
I'm just like, "Yeah, I mean, I am, but, I just" you try not to let things divide you like that, so, like age
Yeah.
or race or anything that and that's the one thing too is, almost every promotion that I've worked has been inclusive. I know it's a bad thing to say now, with this administration, but there's
Yeah.
probably, not a more welcoming, inclusive space, than pro wrestling.
For
Um,
sure.
and the promotions I go to and the shows I work, whether it's in front of the camera or front of in the ring or behind the ropes or behind the curtain, anywhere in the building, they try to be inclusive. They try to be welcoming to all types. They don't turn people away, and they give everyone sort of the benefit of the doubt. Just as long as you're not participating in any of the isms. So a lot of shows you see, they say no racism, no sexism, no this, no that, and they mean it. Like you will be kicked out, and rightfully so. You basically are there to entertain, be entertained, and have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what have you it looks like you've done more when I was looking on your YouTube, it looks like you've done more announcing than commentating.
Yes,
Is that on purpose? Like, do you prefer one over the other?
I prefer announcing. It's kind of how it started.
Okay.
Again, I'm going back to like being a fan for how many years, most of my life. Everyone's kind of done their own announcing and commentary when you think about
Mhm.
it. Like I used to, wrestle with my brother, my cousins, and do the commentary, and you think you're Gorilla Monsoon or Jesse the Body or Vince McMahon. That's the only place I would say you would emulate Vince McMahon is his commentaries, play by play or whatever, or good old Jim Ross. So you call the matches and you say things. What's out there. You have your when I think it might have been the EWA show. I was told, hey, we don't need you for ring announcing for this show. So I was like, well, I got my stuff. What am I gonna do? Like, we want to try your commentary. I'm like, okay. I've never done it before. It was like, "Oh, no worries. There's somebody you work with. You could sit down with them. You could be the color." And it was a little hard, but I got into it because you call what's there, you tell a story, and the preparation, I think, is different. So preparing for shows, I would go to almost every wrestler except for the ones I knew. Like if I saw you, 2 weeks ago and I call your stuff and I
Yeah.
usually just say, "Hey, if you got something new, tell me." But
Mhm.
commentary, you're telling the story more so because you're telling all
Mhm.
the background and the feel the emotions and everything else. What moves are you gonna feature? So you
Mhm.
gotta talk to people more so than usual. You talk to wrestlers you don't know, talk to wrestlers you do know. What are you guys trying to do today? What's the story? What can we say? What do you want us to make sure people know? Because when they hear the match, hear it back, or they see it on YouTube, you notice commentators have more than just, "Oh, he kicked them in the midsection, and that's it." They're telling
Right.
he's cross because he thinks he's the boss of Pittsburgh, but here comes this guy, who's this guy? He's eating all the pierogies, that kind of thing. So, I mean, these are small details that you wouldn't, and sometimes you make it up. And there's filler, if you're comfortable with somebody, you could tell some jokes or whatever, and you get to know people that way. But yeah, so the preparation's different, but it's just as fun. So I was forced into it or volunteered into it, and I've done it probably, I think it's like 70-30 in terms of percentages, ring announcing to
Okay.
commentary.
Yeah.
So there are some promotions I still do it. There's some I just do that, and like assault wrestling and certain promotions, I've done both. So,
Yeah.
but ring announcing is less work. Let's just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
literally,
I could see that.
I mean, it's not much different. Well, I mean, it's going in and out the ring or going in and out of steel cages, which you wouldn't think would, take a toll on you, but at the end of a show, hopping in and out all the time,
Yeah.
it's like start to feel it in like one leg or something like, oh yeah, that's the
Right.
if you don't,
For sure.
commentary, you just sit there. You're just sitting and popping mints and water and whatever else you need to get you through it. So,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you gotta kinda prepare because, I mean, I know when I sit down for a long time, I kinda, gotta get up, stretch your
oh
legs,
yeah.
stuff like that. Same thing with, sounds like you gotta when you're going in and out the ring, you gotta stretch in the back with the guys.
Well, yeah. I want to give a shout out to Ref Gordo, Andrew Gordon. He's probably one of my favorite referees. He's always doing yoga stretches backstage. So he'll grab me. He's like, "Come on, get down and stretch with me." And we're sitting there stretching. And then he's always got energy drinks. So he's always giving me something I should be drinking. I'm like, I like a good Red Bull. He's giving me some. I'm like, what the hell's this? It's got some name on it. And I'm just like, okay, so I'm going to be awake for the next 12 hours. Thanks, Gordo. But he's literally like he's a dad, and he's like a dad backstage. He takes care of everybody. So I love that
Mhm.
guy. Yeah, you make some
That's
good
cool.
friends,
Yeah.
doing this. So
I
and
bet.
I try to be that for people too. I try to show up and, brighten people's mood and, sort of not break things down. And sort of help the locker room. And I think that's one thing I try to tell promoters too. Is like, I'm not going to make a toxic locker room. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to make people feel like they belong there. And that's the environment I hope you want to continue to have. If you hire me, you'll get that.
Yeah. So what's, I guess if you were, like, talking to, like, a up and coming, like, announcer or commentator or, you're talking to, like, a new wrestling fan, like someone kinda like myself or maybe some of my listeners who don't really, because this is Tasty Talks Tech, Wrestling, and Life. So, we cover multiple things. What is something that fans or anyone else might not realize about the role of a ring announcer or a commentator?
They're just as important as the in-ring talent, as the referees. It's all part of the story like telling in the production. If you have cameramen, they're important. If you have sound people, they're important. So no one's, I mean, yes, the people in the ring are the most important because you don't have a show without them. But everyone's important down the line. So treat everyone with respect first and foremost. Be professional. That's part of goes hand in hand with that, and prepare. If you need to get your stats ready, if you need to get your announcements ready, if you need to confirm stuff with people, just have it all together. Um, I've had checklists that I've written, sort of provided to promoters. And I mean, now it's like I work with these same people over and over, so I don't know checklists, but I usually just ask certain questions like, is there a tournament match going to be happening? Is there this, so because of the experience, I can ask those questions, but just know what you're getting into. And if you don't know, be prepared to deal with that too. Just be flexible, but most of all, enjoy it. Every sort of by and large, there's no one there that doesn't want to be there. Yes, maybe someone has worked a whole bunch of shows and this is like the fifth on a string of 12 straight in a road trip or something. So a lot of road lot of road miles traveled for a lot of these people. So be appreciative of what they do when they're in your town and just enjoy every moment of it because at some point, you'll be back sort of on the other side of the curtain, which I don't mind that either. I have a great appreciation watching the show as a fan now. knowing what's happening back there.
Yeah. I
Those are the
think
shows I'm
yeah.
just like, "I'm just gonna enjoy my popcorn," this is cool, because
Yeah.
it can get stressful too. I have a lot of cards. See the index cards? So some of these have actual notes on them. I printed them. I do better with the printer now because I used to write them. My handwriting sucks. I'm a left-handed, genius, but I write stuff and then I can't read it. And I'm like, your next match is set for two, just kind of thing. So I'm reading the name wrong or something. So, you gotta preparation's key.
For
But yeah,
sure.
do your research, watch matches, enjoy the product, have a love for it, develop a love for it, and make it your own. I would say if you're an actual talent, going into commentary, ring announcing, yes, you're going to study a lot of people. You're going to emulate a lot of people. You're going to try to be a lot of people. I've gone in trying to be Howard Finkel, who's like every, every ring announcer's hero is Howard Finkel, the Fink, but I can't be Howard Finkel. I can't do the one full and new. I mean, there's certain points you do that, but you have to have your own voice, because
Yeah.
that's what people notice. They notice you're in the ring, and if you sound like everyone else, then you may not stand out. You won't stand out, but they can just play an AI ring announcer when they replace the saw with AI eventually. So
Lord.
be yourself because you're irreplaceable.
For sure. For sure. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a lightning round real quick.
Sure.
And then I have like a couple of other like questions to kind of wrap this up in a pretty little bow.
All right.
So, lightning round. Favorite wrestler of all time?
I'm gonna say Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Favorite crowd to work in front of?
Of the shows I've done, I'm gonna say Flying V Fight, the theater crowd.
Okay. Oh yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Oh yeah.
Most underrated mic worker today.
So Darius Carter, he's the Ashe wrestling champion. He is probably the best villain in pro wrestling. He's still on the independents. He should be on TV. Probably the most just just the most complete character in pro wrestling right now.
Heel or face commentary? What's more fun?
Heel commentary.
Yes,
You get to, talk about you get to basically be a conspiracy theorist behind the mic. He's not cheating. What are you talking about? That kind of thing. You're blind to what the villains are doing. You down the heroes, and you get to have fun. You get to tell stupid jokes that if they don't land, you're a bad guy anyway. And people hear it back and they laugh.
for sure. I love a good heel.
Yeah.
Dream announced team partner.
Well, man, I'm gonna say it's a tough one. I'm gonna say, Mike Tenay.
Okay.
He's, yeah, I don't think he does it anymore, but he used to do TNA, used to do, WCW, Monday Nitro back in the day. He's always got great stats and facts, and, he's somebody I could definitely see myself working off of. I would be the
Okay.
play-by-play, and he'd probably be my, color.
Yeah. Not part of the lightning round, but it's kind of like speaking of like dream things. What are your dream gigs? So who's a dream wrestler or promotion you'd love to work with in the future?
Well, I think almost everyone wants to work in the WWE. That is a given. AEW as well. They have some huge shows and huge venues. So I think I would love to work in a stadium show. I mean, obviously, I've never been in an arena show either, but I would definitely love to be an announcer. In front of like a large crowd of people and just get people hyped. The few venues I've worked, where you have, the small to medium sized crowds, you've got it's a great feeling just to get people excited, and all you're doing is just reading telling them what's gonna happen next or reading a card, but, just, to be able to do that in front of millions and millions of The Rock's fans would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Second to kind of, it's not the last one's not a question. So I guess last question. What has been the most fun you've had at a gig? And what is the worst experience you've had?
I might have touched on some of these, but I'd
Yeah, a
say the
little
most
bit.
yeah, so the most fun was probably Flying V Fights, and it was and it might be on YouTube. The last match of I'm trying to think. It was a yeah, the Double Dash tournament. It was their tag team tournament. Um, and say I would say look for the last match of Double Dash or Double Dash 2. I think the same team won 2 times in a row. Double Dash, the first Double Dash was great because, Cyberhawks at the time, I think they were called something different. They won the inaugural medallions and trophy, and so being able to present them with all that at the end of the tournament. Double Dash 2, they won it again. That was a special moment because I was in the ring introducing them to their new Flying V Fights tag team titles that were introduced right then and there. And they both the wrestlers had masks on, but I could tell that they had real tears in their eyes because they were not expecting this to get introduced with titles. So that was just one hell of a moment. Everyone's clapping. It's fantastic, and I looked hella good both times. So I will say that.
So what?
Worst moment? Oh boy, I think that cage match might be up there. I've had some shows where, I've, had to witness an injury happen in the ring. Those are not fun, and I've kinda had to keep the crowd, like, settled,
Yeah,
and explain that this really is happening, but, they'll be alright, they're being attended to, just kinda give updates.
right.
I've had some real I've had some flubs, some mistakes in and that spreadsheet I was telling you about with all the wrestlers, I have a little tab on there that has mistakes and errors, and I used to write
Okay.
down for the first few shows every time I made a mistake, and I was like, "I'm never doing this again." I was just so, like, focused on trying to basically get it right. I stopped doing it because I kept thinking, "Well, no, it's gonna be a given. I'm gonna miss something." Just do your best to know what it is and prepare for that not to happen. Something else will happen.
Right. That's
Yeah,
true.
I had one show where, I had to introduce somebody, and I totally with the card in my hand, totally blanked out on on their name. It's like a senior moment or something. She's everyone's staring at me like, "Is he having a stroke? What's he doing?" And I was literally just like, "Who the fuck is this?" I didn't wanna look at the card, but I was like, "Let me look at the card." I was like, "You're that." And, someone asked me if I was alright backstage, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I guess I'm not what I used to be in the brain there, so." Keep your brain sharp and focused. You're my age, I guess ginkgo biloba, but you just don't do too much the night before. You gotta
Yeah.
have your focus.
Take your vitamins,
Oh yeah,
go for walks, do your yoga stretches,
that's right.
your yoga
Yeah,
holds. Yes,
do
for
your
sure.
clubbing. Do your clubbing after the show, not before. Just
After party. Right.
after party. Yeah,
Yes, for
no
sure.
gaming.
Well, this has been a wonderful, delightful episode. I've enjoyed speaking with you, OJ. Can you tell the people where they can find you, about any upcoming gigs or projects, and how to book you?
Thank you, Mimi. This has been wonderful. You're a fantastic host, and I hope to be able to come
Yeah.
back again soon. Uh,
Thank you.
So for me, the next show I have is for Fight Club Pro Wrestling, and that's Fight with an F1 GHT Club Pro Wrestling. They're in Cheverly, Maryland at the American Legion. They've got a show there this coming Sunday, October the 26th. It's called 6 Feet Deep, keeping with the Halloween theme or the spooky season theme, I should say. It's also their 6th anniversary show. So around this time in
Nice.
October, they celebrate their anniversary. So 6 years running. There's also a the third annual Halloween costume contest. I don't even know what I'm wearing to this thing, but Sunday evening should be a great time if you're in the area. Most of the other promotions, like you heard, Fight with two T's Pro Wrestling in New Jersey. They run shows, Enter the Fight, if you look for them, Assault Wrestling Alliance or AWA, and Flying V Fights. A lot of them are online. If you go to any of my pages, I've got links to their promotions, their shows. I try to basically keep everyone up to date as to where I'm going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, look for me online, OJ Purple Stuff or Omar Jamal. If you go to Omar Jamal Wrestling on YouTube, that's going to give you all my matches and stuff that I try to post or tag. So if other promotions are putting up matches that I'm in, I'll just tag them, add them to a playlist, and just put them up on there so that people can see some of the work I've done, some of the work I'm doing, and I'm always keeping an eye out for new places to work. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, so I my goal that's kind of how I ended up in Jersey was I was like trying to look at promotions up north, and so I wanted to
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to work a show and like go home to to my mom's house.
Yeah.
The Jersey place is closest because uh my all my family have come down from Brooklyn, have seen me, perform um 2 times now. So my mom's set, in front
Nice.
row now. So she's cheering and booing, and so she has her favorites, and you know, it's just fun. So like I said, keeping it with the family, keeping it fun, making friends, it's probably the best thing you can do.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope those of you listening in to the Tasty Talks podcast, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, I am your hostess with the mostest, Evelynn Mimi Jae. That's Evelyn with two N's, Evellynn, Mijae. You can find me on all socials at Evelynn Mimi Jae, except for TikTok, it's Hey Mimi Jae. But this has been Tasty Talks, Tech, Wrestling, and Life. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in next week for another episode, another wrestling episode. And you can also check me out every Wednesday between 10 and the start time between 10 and 11 a.m. for the Mimi Morning Show. So
Nice.
that's just a live show that I do. Just kind of have a key. Sometimes I'll have guests on there. Sometimes I don't. But yeah, so all good fun. Thank you so much again for listening. Thank you to my guest OJ, and I will see you on the interwebs. Ciao for now.